I'm here.
Uh,
Oh,
well, Dilly
wait.
is
Dilly
is yeah, Dilly is not awake right
Dead.
now, so Azor
Oh,
stepped
okay.
in. I mean,
Some luck.
he's
It's
NA and
echo
it's
time.
3 p.m. our time, so I don't understand why he's not awake, but
All right, we can turn that into some abuse about survival and PvP still being a meme.
yeah.
I'm sure the 3
Um,
people that play survival will appreciate that.
What? Wait, what is the Dire B glyph?
Yeah, so in PTR, I just wanted to say something about it. In PTR, they have a new glyph for hunters, and it's like your dire beast now shoots bees or something like that instead of yeah.
Fair warning, as soon as you
Yeah.
mention it, I'm going to meme you for it.
Yeah, I have to listen. This is a hunter podcast. I have to include all the RP stuff, like all the new pets and everything. So,
Yeah, mention if that was true.
Prox, I know you hang out in Goldshire. Come on.
He's not coming.
All right. Chat, how are the volumes? Are they pretty even?
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Okay. Okay, making my tweet.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is there a tweet coming so I retweet or?
Yeah.
Mm.
Roger is the professional. He knows how this works.
Yeah, no,
Wait, I need to. Yeah, go on.
I had to frantically set up because you sort of let me know last minute, so I like had to edit the panel on the like that says our name and Twitter and all that stuff, and then Dilly didn't show up, and so I had to swap him and Azor. Like so I've been like doing Photoshop all morning.
Wait, okay, this is fine. Yeah, as I said, like when you sent me the message, I still was very uncertain about what my plans were for this week. And then I came back from the army and I kind of forgot about it. And then I was going through my messages on Discord and I'm like, oh damn, yeah, that was for today. I guess I could make it.
Wait,
Like, yeah, because
so
I
are
was
you
planning to
like
go on vacation. Yeah, sorry.
so you're like back from the army? Like you're done?
Um, no, so I'm going back there on Wednesday for my final 5 days, basically.
Oh, okay,
And then I'm fully done on the 19th.
nice. Are you excited to be
Yeah,
done?
very excited. Wouldn't mind if I was done already, but
Yeah. How far from home are
It's a
you?
bit like getting out of it's a bit like getting out of prison, but it's prison they're letting you come and go from. It's not so bad.
I mean, I've been home quite a bit, so I'm not complaining. But like going there is quite a struggle because I'll have to drive for about 4.5 hours drive going there on Wednesday, and then another 4.5 coming back. And I've done that like, well, now I'm driving with my own car there, but usually I took the bus, which is even longer, like 5, 6 hours. So I'm kind of bored of the whole trip back and forth so many times. Uh, I don't know. Should I try to like zoom in my camera at all, or
No, I think you look fine.
We're all
okay?
about the same distance from our cameras, so
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
fine.
If anything, I'm a bit further out, but I cannot find where that setting is, so that sounds like tomorrow's problem.
Hmm. Are you tweeting from your phone or?
Yeah. Can you tell?
Yeah. Uh,
All right. Let's see. All right, I'm just copy and pasting on my personal end. Okay. All right, I just tweeted him. All right, let me pull up my handy dandy talking points. All right, 1 minute. Man, this is so annoying. I have to use my phone to type in Discord because I have the call open on my Discord on my computer.
Could always open a Discord web instance as well. So you have Discord client for your camera and Discord web.
Oh,
Which
could
works.
I think there's like a conflict with like the camera or something. It like registers under the. I don't know. I feel like I've tried that before.
I could force it into an in private window, then it should push into a separate VM as well,
Yeah.
technically.
Okay, it is 3 o'clock, so let's get started. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 3 of the True Shot Lodge podcast. It is so I am Moofzy, of course, Azor, Prox. Dilly decided to sleep in today, so he is not joining us. But in his place, we have Method Rogerbrown. So welcome, Roger.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Good to be in for the my first time here. I'm
Yes,
excited to talk about some hunter stuff finally.
I
I
know,
feel the
right?
need to point out that it's like 3 p.m. where Dilly is, and that is a total act of degeneracy. So,
Yeah, I know.
obviously
I
we've been
mean,
light on him in the past, and
I mean, he did, doesn't he? I mean, he has is AWC this weekend. I feel like it was the PvP tournament was this weekend, or maybe it was last weekend. I don't know. Maybe he has a reason for sleeping in. Well, whatever the case. So quick recap of what we've been talking about. We talked about a little about EP, Eternal Palace, 8.2, sort of benthic gear last week. We talked about farming essences. We talked a little bit about the 8.2 PvP meta. Um, and so obviously this week we have Roger. So we're probably going to talk mostly about Eternal Palace and the Race to World First and his experience and that stuff today. So I guess let's just get straight into it. Roger, I guess do, are you enjoying 8.2 and Eternal Palace so far?
I think the patch is quite enjoyable. Uh, sorry, someone just poked me. uh, the raid was no, sorry, the patch was quite good in my opinion. I especially enjoyed the whole essence farming and getting the essences. I think that is how content should be in the game, and I really enjoyed doing all kinds of different content to get those essences. Because at the start, I mean, we did have an idea of which essences you want to go for, but you can never know, so you just go for all of them, kinda.
Yeah.
And it was basically a varied experience of all kinds of content. Comparing that to just island farming and getting AP, it was definitely a breath of fresh air. Now for the raid itself, I think it was a really solid raid. The bosses were quite enjoyable. I didn't really feel like. I mean, I did skip on a couple of bosses in the first week, so I can't really express my opinion too much on Orgozoa, I think it's called, and Twins Court. But the
Yeah.
rest of the bosses I thought were pretty good. Now for Azshara, I don't know if you want to get into it right now, but uh, some things. I
We
mean, it was
can.
a
We'll
it was
talk
a
about
good
that later
boss,
on in
but
the
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
we'll
we
talk about it
can
later.
just. He picked a hell
Yeah.
of a patch to come back to with a tight time frame. Like, cool, sweet, I'm back, and here is the most maintenance and chores there have ever been in this game ever. Have fun. Blech.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
I
did you feel like not prepared? Since I mean, obviously you're in the army, right? So all you had was
oh
your hunter. I mean, did you wish that you had like a shadow priest or, whatever during Prague?
uh I let's just say that I'm thankful that I decided early on that I'm only going to focus on my hunter and not bother at all with my alts, because I actually was gone in the middle of the patch. So the patch came out and you have the 2 weeks until the raid comes out,
Right.
and I was gone for the biggest part of that. I came back right when the heroic week started. So I missed out on a lot of days where people got to do all the stuff they needed to.
Yeah.
So if I had more alts to play, then I don't even know how I would have done that. It was I definitely felt I was behind, not just prep wise, like with the AP and the essences and all that, but also theory crafting wise. Like I didn't know what people can do, what the classes, what is good, what is bad. The bosses themselves, I didn't really have time to check them out and look at the VODs like I normally do. So I definitely it was a weird experience and a first for me where I felt, oh, like I need people to help me understand the game right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess it's especially weird for because you help a lot of like with the raid leading and like prep for the, for the guild in general, right? So how did you I guess what do you usually do for method, and then how did that differ from, obviously you didn't have that much time to come back to.
Right. So as I said, like normally I would go through the VODs from our PTR tests on mythic bosses, especially the later ones, because the first ones usually die by the time we wake up from the US guilds. So it's kind of a waste of time trying to come up with a strategy. Most of them are really easy anyways, so you just go and kill them. But the last like couple of bosses, I would usually sit there, look at the VOD, try to come up with a setup or an initial setup, an initial idea, weak core ideas, and all that, and have a talk with Scribe and um, see what he thinks, maybe the other officers as well, and have like an initial plan which would sort of dictate what our setup would be and which classes we want to gear to defeat the Azshara, the last boss. Now, instead of having a talk with Scribe about all of that, instead I was just trying to farm my AP and farm all my essences and get all the pearls. And
Yeah.
yeah, instead of talking with Scribe, I actually I had to enlist the help of Azortharion, where
Yeah.
I literally just messaged him, hey, yeah, you got some time? I have some questions, like I don't know who to ask, because you gotta remember, I was the only hunter really in Method.
Yeah.
I mean, Meres and Jinji, who in the past have been playing hunter, they
They betrayed
uh,
us. I know.
they betrayed us basically, yeah, and they switched to
Mm.
to the Moonkin, aka the easiest spec in the game. And they might have known, but they obviously didn't do enough research. So I called up Azortharion. I'm like, yo, can you help me? Like, what are the essences? Like, what should I go for, and all that. And he did help me a lot.
Good guy
I'm glad
Azor.
I could.
Yeah.
I'm glad
So
I helped the world
that's
first a little bit.
I'm
exactly.
amazed he could answer. He never does anything until like the day before the patch comes out. It's like, oh, I was waiting for them to stop with the hot fixes. It's like he just didn't fucking start.
That's also a thing. I expected more changes to happen, but I don't know. They
No,
just didn't really
everything
do
was
anything.
so perfect that all they needed was
Yeah.
the 6% on
Yeah.
arcane, and that definitely was all that was needed. There definitely wasn't anything else.
I mean,
Uh,
to be fair, the balance was okay. I don't think the balance was crazily off. like it has been some other times. So they did a decent job, but that's why I was planning to have as many essences as possible as well,
Yeah.
because you never know. Maybe they suddenly make Blood of the Enemy the best. So guess I go and farm 50k
Yeah.
honor
Yeah.
in DGs.
Ugh, that was
Yeah.
awful. That was actually bad.
There are definitely like some things that are bin that you'd expect, like, okay, they'll buff that so it's out of the bin and it's competitive. And they kind of went, no, we'll just leave it in the bin. If you have,
Yeah.
it's a bit like our talents, right? They're like, if you have something you can choose, we don't care that you never change them and the rest are in the bin. You're fine, you're balanced, off you go. This was sort of their approach to balancing this tier.
Yep.
God, we all thought that Blood of the Enemy like the week before was gonna be like super good, and so like everyone started farming it, and I was so glad when it's like I think a lot of us still use the miner in some situations, but like we
Hmm.
don't really use the major very much. I'm so glad, and my rogue needs it, and the battleground week is next week, and so I'm like, do I just suck it up and do it next week, or dude, it's so un-alt friendly, all this
Sometimes people they talk about it like, oh, it's not really that bad, you know, with all the buffs you can get to your battleground XP, it only takes 3 days. Like, what the fuck?
3 days of constant like
Yeah, exactly.
battlegrounds. I'm like,
Oh, okay, only three
yeah,
days.
I think one of our rogues got it in a day and a half of patch dropping or something. It was
Oh
just
god.
insane, yeah.
yeah. Well, he must have no lifed it, right?
Yeah, I think he basically just put Netflix on and no one saw or heard from him. And then he logged back off 3 days later and slept for a day.
Yeah.
Oh, and I gotta say that was so hard for me because just a quick story. So I had a few days, as I said, in the pads before I had to leave, and that was also the week for the bonus honor, if you remember,
Yeah.
like the first week of the pads, I
Yeah,
think, right?
thankfully.
So I did some of it, but then I had this weird moment where I was like, "Okay, guys, want to do some BGs?" And they're like, "Ah, nah, we're actually farming islands and we're full." I'm like,
Oh god.
"Okay, guess I tried to do something else." Then the next day, I'm like, "Yo, guys, want to do some islands?" And they're like, "No, we're actually doing BGs and we're full." I'm like, "What? How? Like this?"
You
I
can't
I
keep
was
up.
so I was super ditched, and then I had to solo queue, right? So I did try to do my daily epic BG win and my
Uh,
daily normal BG win, and like the epic BG, you kind of want to queue up and like not fully commit to trying. You just chill out and stuff, and then I mean, a little bit of a weird flex. It's not meant like that, but I just wanted to chill out and like check something else on the second screen. And as soon as I enter, like half the times they would be like, "Oh, it's Rogerbrown," and then they would put a mark on me and they're like, "Follow him and like heal him." I'm like, God, I just want to semi AFK this, please.
So that's where you go. You
Yes.
got to use that cloud. Like you just straight up BM them in chat and be like, "Oh, guys, I gotta quickly go milk the cat. Can you like don't vote me off? I'm good. I'm good." And then like I reckon you can pull it off. You got to use it.
Roger, you gotta lead
I
all your fanboys to victory. What do you mean? Just lead them through all the epic BGs and
yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know what you
sometimes
mean though. Like
yeah.
when I also like some, not to the same extent because I'm not Roger Brown, but you know, you join a heroic puck and you just kind of want to slack, and then someone is like, oh my god, you know, Azortharion, something DPS, and
Yeah,
then you're
they expect
supposed,
from
yeah,
you.
exactly, you expect, and if you under deliver, then it's like, what the fuck is that guy? Like,
it's
why
like,
is
why is
everyone
this guy so
going?
special?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um. So I guess okay. So now that EP is done, how would you rate EP compared to like previous raids? I know we sort of talked about like the curve of difficulty was super nice compared to a lot
Hmm.
of other raids, right? Like we
Yeah.
had Tomb of Sargeras
Uh,
where it was like super easy, and then Fallen Avatar is like impossible, and like
I would say like I really enjoyed this progress for other reasons as well. But overall, I would probably put it in around top 10 raids uh, that I've progressed on seriously with method and stuff. So I think it was a really solid raid overall. The
Where would
difficulty
you put
was
it if Azshara's room didn't have 4 pillars and a console of fucking annoyingness?
yeah, so a little, yeah, exactly. So a couple of things that annoyed me was, yeah, a that, for example, you go to Twins Court and it's like, how am I supposed to compete DPS wise with classes that just multi-dot? It's just, I don't know. I
Barb
think it's a
shot.
little bit of
Yeah.
sorry.
Is it
But Barb shot them both.
Yeah.
barb shot,
Okay.
multi-dot barb
Yeah.
shot? Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, why did they design this? I mean, okay, I get it. Some classes need to be better than others, but this is just kind of ridiculous, right? Um, so that like, and I just shut that boss out because there's no point. Uh, Orgozoa, you can play it, but you need to have like your tank positioned properly, and I'm not
Yeah.
like a hundred
Just
percent
hilarious
sure.
positioning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Like we had actually this week we played it, and I'm like, yo, tank, can you like try to have my pet behind? And
Like
then he would
rotate it a
move
certain way. Rotate it
right, and
75
then
Yeah,
my
to
pet
degrees to
would
the
rotate
be
the
right.
boss so the pet moves. Yeah.
my, like I still don't. I'm not 100% sure how the AI works because it would be perfectly positioned. The tank is standing at a certain position. My pet is behind the boss. Then randomly, like the other tank would taunt it, and my pet would go, uh, like
Yeah,
Yeah,
across
it's
the
because of the
the
boss.
taunt
boss
swap. It's
cannot
so
move
annoying.
an inch. It has to be, yeah. So when the
But
the
oh,
tank takes over, it has to be in the exact same position and everything. So
oh, okay, yeah, I
yeah,
guess
it's
they
a bit
moved it.
tricky. It's the
They
kind of
moved it
thing you,
slightly because of
yeah,
the dodging the circles on the ground, maybe. All
yeah,
right.
yeah, that's possible. Yeah, it is the kind of strategy you need implemented on progress, because
Mm-hmm.
otherwise the tanks CBA to learn it for farm. Because they'll be like, yeah,
Right.
what the fuck, man? It's farm. Who cares?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly.
It's not. It's the problem is like when you tell your tanks and you're on farm, you're telling your tanks actively how they can annoy you, which of course they'll do. They'll be like, "Fuck
Yeah,
you," and you'll
exactly.
just watch them start dancing back and forth. Like
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
cannot imagine a world where I can tell Blueprint to fucking move 2 yards to your left. Like, it's not
yeah. I was
For
legit
me,
saying,
it's
Just
yeah.
go move a little bit to your right, please, please, please." Then he would do it. Then the next time he taunted, he was wrong position again. I'm like, "Can you go again to your right, please?"
Yeah, for me,
Uh,
it's just like, we pull and the pet usually goes to like the far right or something, and I just say rotate a little bit. Then the pet eventually finds its position, and it's just that's perfect, and it stays like that the whole phase.
mm,
Yeah, I
Man,
can
I
just
wish that
imagine
happened.
Sko listening to that and responding a bit like an old clip from fucking Spine of Deathwish.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
But
Um,
just to go back to your question, I think overall it was a really good raid, and for the Azara specifically, as I was saying, I think I didn't. I minded a bit the console and stuff because I always have a big issue when your camera zooms in when you don't want it to. Had the same issue with Zakul actually.
yeah.
I hate it. I just want to have a good overview of the fight, and I don't want this object or this invisible wall just pushing the camera in.
Mm.
But for Azara, I think the main issue was the whole mechanic with the soaking and the drain from the runes and all that. I think I wouldn't have designed it like that, let's say, because I mean it will we're gonna get into a bit of super details. I don't know if you want to, but it basically makes it so that you have to really think about it way too much to not over soak or under soak because the boss basically, let's say in stacks, it drains 1.1 now, 1.1 stack. So if she hits it once and the player soaks one stack, there will be 0.1 stack left in the thing. And that means that if he stays there, the boss moves away, then you soak another full stack for only 0.1. I don't know if you understand what I mean. Whereas
Yeah.
Yeah.
if
You
she
don't get the
hit
full
if she
efficiency
hit it
out
for
of
one stack, she could have just hit for one stack and you soak one stack. Boom, easy. And there's no so much thought went and effort went on spreadsheets and weak orders and all that, mainly because of that, so that you don't oversoak, because then you cannot do the fight like that. So
it. You
it
also
was
wind up with a bunch of like just minor, really annoying things with the soaking. Like if you jump out of it instead of walk out of it, quite often it'll just hold your positioning that little bit longer, so you get people
Mm-hmm.
getting 7
Oh,
stacks instead of 6, which just makes you
yeah.
dying. And it's like
I
so
got a
many
stack.
little things like that. It's just so
I
tilted.
I got a stack this week, 30 yards away. Like I legit moved away like 20, 30 yards, and my recorder suddenly, because I have a recorder counting up my stacks,
Yeah.
and goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I move away. Then 3 seconds later, 6. Okay, thank you.
Wow.
I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also love the LOS mechanics. I like how the console's LOS, but it barely covers like half your body and stuff like
Oh
that. It's
yeah,
just
true,
like,
true, true.
yeah, I don't know. It's just, yeah, it is. It is
So,
an
I
interesting
mean,
boss.
that one is an extreme. I guess the whole boss section I'll go into a little bit later. It's a bit of a tilter for various reasons, but like I've never seen or had the issue on the console. Like always, you strafe one step, you're spamming the crap out, or for those that use HK, holding one key. But you can see like, oh yeah, this button's trying to spam, it can't spam, so I'm definitely not in line of sight. So you're fine, you never die. But I swear, like a quarter of your raid randomly when you're in progress, like, oh dead, I was behind the console, and it's so tilting. So then you like watch them fucking run a marathon all the way to the other side of the console to be sure when one step would have done it, and you're just like, oh my god! When you try and make a DPS timer, yeah,
I
Yeah.
mean, to be fair on that end, if you're talking about the arcane detonation, like when the
yeah, yeah,
boss, yeah, so that had the extra effect that if you had the boss really close to the console, even if you
yeah.
were
Where
line
they're
of sight,
inside its hitbox, but
right, if you were in the
yeah,
circle, then you still got hit, which is not super obvious. So
Yeah.
yeah, just overall, I would say the boss was okay, but the clunkiness, if that is a term we
Yeah,
can use,
yeah.
was a little bit higher than it should have been.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those fights because so much of the fight is personal responsibility. And it's like, if you make that one fuck up, you die, and you need those
Hmm.
people up. So it is a raid wipe. You're seeing a lot, and you saw it bleeding through into like even some of the some of the streams before raid for you guys before you got your kill. And definitely we're hitting the same thing in a bunch. Uh, it's a boss that is going to use anger to motivate you, and it will cause some friction between your teammates a
True,
bit.
true.
Yeah.
It'll definitely try some of those things, which, when you get to the end and you do it, it's in some ways that makes it feel more rewarding because you're like, everyone played on point to get this happen. No one fucking played like they were a buyer, like you got there through good play. But oh man, it will tilt you a bit getting there.
Yeah.
And on that end, just the final thing, which I forgot to say earlier, the biggest thing that angered me, especially after the 300 mark of the wipes, was why did they put phase one in this fight? I
Yes,
don't get it.
believe
I
that shit.
You can take that phase,
Like
throw it
Gul'dan.
out the window. Exactly. You can throw that phase out the window, and the fight is still fine, and no one will complain. And it's just a 2 minute or 2.5 minute, I don't know how long it takes, just time sync.
Yeah.
That's it. And
Yeah,
at the
but
start with the whole spear, again, clunkiness, just one-shotting you, um, you just wipe for a stupid reason.
what
Tell you
would they
what's
name
really
what would they name the ring that drops from Azshara, the bow, if not for the
Oh,
The
lovers?
lovers, the
Because
loving thing.
yeah, what would they call it if there was no phase
then I
one?
guess their hands were tied. I guess, yeah.
Yeah,
see, I reckon
you need an
you
RP
keep it
sensitive.
in.
Because
No, you
actually,
dynamically name the ring for whoever failed the fucking beacon and got mind controlled, so that it's like pinning them and reminding. Like,
uh,
All right, Roger.
yeah,
Who
no,
is
I
who
tell
is
you
the
what,
worst on who is the
said
worst
if
on
you really
Beacon,
want
bro?
to,
Okay, Prox, you go.
I say if you really want to experience pain and lack of reason for that first phase to exist, do it where one of your tanks is not a monk, so that the buggy shit in that fight can randomly one tap them.
mhm.
Then you experience some pain. You're like, oh look, a tank just fell over.
Hmm.
Yeah.
um, what was I gonna say? Oh, so we sort of talked about this, how a lot of this Azshara, and I guess Zakul was also like super personal responsibility. And I actually asked Scripe this when we were in Germany, but like more so in the past, a lot of the fights were just very heavy, like DPS checks or HPS checks. But recently, they've sort of been introducing all these fights where it's just like heavy, heavy personal responsibility. What are your thoughts? I mean, I think it's sort of just because they've realized that, method limit, all these guilds are gonna have 20 characters ready, and they're gonna have whatever comp they need, 7 Shadow Priests, 8 Warlocks, whatever. And so y'all are able to sort of brute force these fights. And so, what's your opinion on just like these new personal responsibility fights as opposed to just straight DPS, HPS check fights like that?
See, I
Um,
don't think Sickle's a personal responsibility fight, but you are.
You don't think with like going down
Mm,
in the dealer? I guess it's for those like 3 to 6 people that have
correct.
to, yeah.
Yeah, you can have some real retards in your raid, and they don't need to think or do anything.
Yeah,
They just need to follow a marker and stand on it, or go left when someone says go left, go right when someone goes left, and then to mongo their buttons, and that's it. Like you can have some actual, yeah. Whereas you cannot do that on a Shara.
yeah,
It's quite different.
yeah, I mean, definitely, it was easier for you to die on Azara than it was on Zakul. On Azara, there were so many one-shot things that, especially if you had the 5, 6 stacks of the, or even 7 stacks of the debuff. But I think it's very interesting that you say that. And now that I think about it, I think like as you go for, like, let's say one of the top kills in the world, I think the mentality is always, if there isn't a hard DPS check, you kind of make some for you, if that makes sense. So thinking back, for example, oh, phase 2 of Queen Azara, we didn't have to push the boss before the Indomitable at spawn, but our strat becomes much easier if you do. So
yeah,
it is like we create that DPS check for ourselves. On Zakul, we also were like, okay, we were stopping DPS in phase 1 to wait for a specific timing, and then we had to push the boss in phase 2, pop the bloodlust and everything, so that we get into phase 3 with less stacks of the dot in the fear, like phase 2
right.
in the fear realm. I mean, you don't have to do that, but it's just you come up with a strategy and you're like, you set some marks that we need to do this, we need to do that, we need to uh, DPS as much as possible to make the fight easier moving forward. So yeah, you don't insta wipe if you fail it, but it kind of always naturally happens. In terms of the personal uh, responsibility that players had, I'm glad that at least it is not anymore. Oh yeah, and on Queen Azara, sorry to add on that. For example, we said, yo, in the last phase, we're only going to explode the console twice,
Right.
whereas I think limit went for 3 times
Yeah.
because it didn't have bloodlust. So again, like we made our artificial DPS check in phase 2, save bloodlust, but nuke the boss with everything else you can, so that we save bloodlust and we use it in the last phase, which again is going to be a DPS check because we're not going to explode the console when the third overload happens. So
Yeah.
just to prove what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Now the personal responsibility, I'm glad that most of it is okay. If someone messes up, they die, but the fight goes on. And if you have combat reses, you can just res them and continue. Uh, which was not the case, for example, on Kill Jaden. Oh, you didn't soak Armageddon, everyone dies.
Yeah.
So most of the time now it's not. A couple of examples when it was, and that's when it's really frustrating. Is, for example, on Zakul, oh, one of the people that went into the Delirium realm to kill the Delirium ad, what's it called? Um,
The summoner,
the
right?
Echo of Delirium, I think,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, he messed up and he died and he went out, and then they didn't kill the ad. Oh, we all wipe, and it feels so bad.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, why did you mess it up? And he's like coming up with some excuses, and you're like, oh, we talked about this. You do this and this and this. right? Whereas if he just messed up and died, it's like, oh, you messed up, but you get rest and it doesn't ruin the whole try. And also on Queen Azshara, we had the same with the spears. Oh God. Oh boy, we missed the spear again. I guess it's a wipe. Oh, it felt so bad, so bad.
Yeah.
And the funniest thing was when someone would be like, "Oh, come on, guys, we've been missing the spears. You need to shape up." Then the next try, they miss the spear themselves. I'm like, dude, I what's
Or you
going on?
finally sort it for everyone, but just
Yeah.
pull your character slightly too fast, slightly too slow, so that the shield goes up
Yeah.
just after the spear goes out.
Oh
And you're
yeah,
like,
yeah,
oh, for
yeah,
fuck's sakes, why is this a thing?
yeah. We had some of that as well. I don't know. The timings are a little random sometimes. Uh, but yeah, so I'm glad that at least most of the mechanics where if you fail it, you die, and that's it.
Right.
Like
Yeah,
with a
'cause
Beacon, or I don't know, like if you soak too much on Azara and then you have less HP, you just die. Stuff like
I
that is,
I
I think,
do
okay.
like I do like the approach though, like with Zirkle, for example, where it's like it's not high personal responsibility, but those few people who do have a really important job, they could wipe the raid. But if they do well, then they like save the raid and bring it through. Because for your average guild, like your average guild does not have 20 players that are the same skill level. It has a handful of really fucking good people and a
Hmm.
handful of really fucking bad people, and then a bunch of people in the middle. And that's kind of tailored around how those guilds play out. So, yeah, I don't know. It's nice for them to not just get hard
yeah.
stuck behind something and wait for Iron's guild to catch up to it. And mysteriously, the fight gets easier.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of just like a hard DPS check. Oh, like in Highmall, like Butcher, right? Where it was like minimal mechanics and it was just a straight up like just
Hmm.
DPS check, right? They don't really have very many of those fights anymore. It's always like I guess the most DPS check intensive fight this time was what Queen's Court, right? And that was sort of a
I would
DPS
say
race
I would say
or
Ashvane
Ashvane?
was
Yeah,
also,
Ashvane.
Yeah, that's fantastic. But
yeah.
that was just a week one check. Like that's what you're
Hmm.
seeing a lot now, I guess, is there are these DPS checks and these type things in the first week, but you now have so many sources of gear, you have so
Hmm.
many sources of everything else that by the time you get to week two, like even if you got fucked in loot, you're still comfortably going to pass those gear checks in the second week onwards.
Yeah.
So
After week
even
one, sorry, continue.
so I was just going about like how do they challenge that, right? Like they either make the check harder and everyone gets stuck behind it in week one. You wind up with like kind of like a fetid situation, except intentional rather than just devs not knowing how to balance something, or you you go the other way around and like you can't dynamically make it harder the later weeks. So yeah, that's in a bit of a tough situation, but
Yeah, it's what was I gonna say? It's after the first week, everything is just like almost all DPS, really hard DPS checks disappear after the first few weeks, and everything just becomes don't die. And if no one dies, the DPS will just be there almost by default.
Yeah.
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Which is because I really like those tight DPS check moments, and at least you sort of have those in Azshara where like Roger was saying, they're not real DPS checks, but depending on how you want to play things out, like, there are some artificial DPS checks that you can put in. Like what did I say? One of the fucking, I think it was one of the Chinese logs. Like their strat for that phase two DPS push was, nah, we'll just let the ad come out. We'll just let it slam. We'll deal with the
On
extra
Azshara,
soaks. Don't worry. Yeah, and it's
Oh
like,
God.
oh my
Yeah.
god,
Yeah, they
okay.
killed the Indomitable ad on their strat. I was like, what are they doing? Why would they do
Well,
that?
I saw another one where they just straight up let it like wander off. Yeah, do the
Right.
slams and
I actually thought of that initially. Like as soon as we were checking the PTR, I was like, maybe the valid strat is going to be that you just let it go through and you just have classes that can survive with high stacks and you just soak it all up and you go up to 7, 8 stacks, no problem.
well, before the change around stacks that was making the shamans and Ankh and all of that sort of thing look really good. I think that was definitely a viable
Hmm.
thing. We just like screw it, we'll blow 2 inks there, have 2 shamans just walk in and take 20 stacks, and it's fine. But yeah, once that change went through, it's like, no, we're going to kill this bad boy. Or actually, we're going to make it so this bad boy doesn't exist.
Yeah,
It's
Yeah.
just,
I didn't
like,
really
that's
think.
effectively the only strat, honestly, ever has, which is great for us, which is like, okay, we don't have the brains to do anything else, so what can we just out DPS? And unfortunately, the fight works that way. So
Yeah, I'm just wondering, like, are the current strats for killing Queen Azshara much different than the world first kill?
Correct.
Like, is there something we can, for example, Ashvane, a viable strat for at least some guilds, at least on farm, not sure about progress, you can 2 shield on Ashvane.
Yeah, we've been
Um,
doing that now as well.
yeah, is there anything like that in Azshara where you can do it differently because you have a few more weeks
So,
of gear?
so I think there are a lot of guilds who, even on their early ones, have sort of needlessly copied the world first strat. There are a lot of guilds that have like 0 to 1 shadow priests that are rushing one ad down to 35% and switching over because they're like, well, that's what other guilds did. It's like, yeah, that makes sense if you have some classes that can abuse that for more damage. But if you don't, that's probably not the play. Um,
Oh, and Queen's
and
Court.
a lot of the
Yeah, we're doing that, but it's just like, well, we have no real reason to, guys.
it
Yeah.
particularly fast PM, where you're like
You
you
can
you
kill the fastest.
disproportionately skew the fight so that you're spending less time
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
execute range
Yeah.
to the point where you probably actually better to take Dire Beast or something like that. You're just not going to because fuck that. But
Yeah.
What
But we kind of have
classes?
the opposite with Ghost at the moment because he plays marksmanship hunter and they have that reverse execute.
Mhm.
So by everyone going a melee boy to begin with, he gets to hit the caster girl for ages when it's above 80%, and he gets to pump a lot of damage that way. It's obviously not as potent as Shadow Priests, but
is that enough to
still
like
a
lift
little bit
him
of
from
merit
dead
to it.
last to second to last, or
Well, he's like narrowly beating me on the overall because I don't really have that. I don't gain any execute until 35%. And when the melee guy
the
hits
other
35%, I'm swapping
shit on the
over.
fight?
Yeah,
So I'm not
Yeah.
getting any execute
Exactly.
the whole fight. Yeah.
Exactly. They're like, yeah, everyone switch off. I'm like, bro, I just got to my execute. Oh, switch to the other hand. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just mic up
What?
and be like, all right, boys, the race is on because I'm not switching off silly badge. Here we go.
Yeah.
What
You're on the
classes benefit from off-target execute besides Shadow Priest? Is that it? Do Warlocks don't benefit from off-target execute,
I
right?
don't think so.
I have no idea.
And
Actually.
warriors do, but they're too far away.
Yeah.
They're not in melee range. I'm pretty sure it's just
But
Shadow Priest, right?
yeah, I think so.
It also helps that Shadow Priests just do a lot of damage, and
Right. Well, the twist of
having
fate.
10%
Yeah.
on a Shadow Priest is way better than having 10% on anything else.
Yeah.
I think that fight exclusively exists so that you can like sit there quietly to yourself and go, I miss Sidewinders.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I said it. I said it a couple of times. I'm like, man, why did they take that
Yeah.
beautiful spec away from
I
us?
know. We would have been
Yeah,
relevant.
you, you think
Yeah.
back to what was the Antaurus one with the Coven? You think back to Coven and how fucking hard you banged everyone when you sat cleaving perfectly on the two. And you had
Yeah.
those ads. Like you think when the spark spawned, so that you'd be cleaving 4 targets in there,
Oh,
Yeah.
that
and
was
help you
Oh.
that
fucking
was
true
good.
shot with that. Like,
Yeah.
When you
Or
see
even
a Hunter's mark
Orgoza.
appear on that
all I'm
ad
gonna
that is out
say,
of your nameplate range.
yeah, all I'm gonna
That is
say
when you know.
is.
Yeah.
I am very glad that this camera doesn't go below the waist right now, because just thinking about that gives me a little
Yeah, I mean, even Orgoza would have been really good with Sidewinders, right? You just sit behind everything and just cleave everything, or sit in front of the boss even.
Yeah, that's the
yeah.
thing. It's just it allowed you to play a lot more fights. It's just let's say unlock the viability for spread out cleave fight for hunters, which now we just don't have. Like it's just
Yeah,
impossible.
yeah,
It's so sad.
yeah. Yeah. Feels bad,
Rip
man.
But
Legion MM.
to say to come back to what you said, I had someone, not gonna name him because I don't know if he wants to, but he whispered me and he's like, "Man, I knew this would happen. Like as soon as you started like streaming progression and stuff, like I'm trying to progress in this, I don't know, like top 20 guild, and they just want to copy your strat, and I'm like, why would you do that? Like just do these changes, and I'm like, no, if we do what they did exactly, then we're gonna kill the boss, and it's
That
frustrating
could be
for
many
you.
guilds in the top
Yeah.
Yeah,
20, from what I've
and
heard.
and it's true also. Like we come up with a strat, but it doesn't mean it's the best one. Obviously, it's just we're human as well. We don't have the god sent strategy. Oh, this is exactly how you play the fight, and that's it. So
Yeah,
there's
you've
always going to be improvements, especially when you get more gear. And like we're saying earlier on Asvane, we couldn't do the two-phase strat with the week one gear, but now we can, and we switched our strat as well. And I'm sure we'll change some things on Queen Azara once we get more gear. Which I think the change we will most likely end up doing is now that we have more gear, just add another healer. Like that's basically
Yeah.
it. I
If
think
you'd
that's
if you'd known about the Gorgonzola BM cleave thing, do you think you would have been in for that? Because I don't think you were in for the first kill in
yeah.
the
I
end.
wasn't in.
I think they
I
would have
don't
changed it.
know. Maybe yeah. But I mean, most of the classes that were in there were doing really good DPS as well, so I
Yeah.
don't think it would have mattered.
Yeah. I think y'all brought a lot
Uh,
of off healing classes too, right? Like Shadow Priests and Boomkins and
I, I'm to be honest, I tried a bit the fight. They didn't even tank the ads that close at the start, right? So wasn't even possible, even if my pet was positioned well. Uh, so because I was only in for like 10, 15, 20 tries, and then I was out. And then I just went to freehold trying to get a gun because I didn't have a proper weapon. So I didn't really see what they were doing. But yeah, it would have been
even
okay.
then,
It would have been okay if we did that.
yeah, I feel like it doesn't make us that viable still. Like realistically, like, oh, cool, this will let you do like 50, 60K, and your fire mage is like, cool, I'm going for 90K this pull. Like next week,
Yeah.
next week they'll put out 100K, easy. Like ours is already doing 90K on that fight. Like it's just you have such a tiny PP in comparison, and it's
Mm.
yeah.
The
I think it's just about for guilds that don't have the depth on their bench, that don't
Mhm.
have the or other people that can come in where they have to play you for them do this, and you're not trolling your guild. You're still not going to be great, but you're okay. So at least it gives them that option. But I still think the
mm,
play if you've got a fire mage sitting out, nah, you don't really need that piece right now.
yeah.
Let him come in, let your guild push forward.
The one thing I will say though is that especially if you were lucky enough, like I was, to have two traits of the duck and cover, I think it's called the
Yeah.
trait, which was insane for Queen Nazara, by the way. You can the zaps from Orgozoa that you have to spread out and then it zaps everyone.
Yeah,
You
times with that
like
perfectly.
BM Hunter, if you have that trait as well, you can sustain yourself super easily. You have so many things to press. You have your Spirit Mant every time, you have
Yep.
your Feign Death. Like I was getting a 60, 70k Absorb Shield from that, and then the heal on top of it. Then you have Exhilaration, you have, obviously Hellstone, Health Tonic,
Right.
you have Turtle. Like you have so many things you can press actually. So it was I mean, you can bring that up as an argument why
Yeah.
Hunter would have been okay there.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean Hunter's really good defensively in terms of like healing and sustain. The only thing they lack is like the preemptive damage, right? And so like obviously the dunk and cover is really good, but anything more than that, like we have what survival of the fittest every 3 minutes, which is a
Hmm.
pitiful
Yeah.
20% TR, which is very bad. And then
50.
turtle,
Uh,
which yeah,
Oh, 20.
I
yeah,
like that we have that though. When it's like I need this small personal here, but I don't want to like commit too much. I don't want a
Yeah.
turtle.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
I
for
just pop the
sure.
20%. Yeah.
Yeah,
generally, our survivability works out as we have higher health pool than most. We take natively more damage than most, and we have some pretty good on-demand spot healing.
yeah,
So anytime the damage profile matches up with that, you feel like one of the most survivable fucking people on the planet.
yeah,
And when it
What?
doesn't, when it's about like preemptive damage, you don't feel so great at all.
Yeah.
But quite often it is that former rather than the latter. Like even on Azshara, to be honest, so much of that is okay. You can see charged spear is going to come in. You've got your little weak aura with your bar for when that's about to hit. Oh, it's popped up and I'm not topped. I press one button and I top myself. Like
Yeah.
it's
Mm-hmm.
there's some really good, and not every class, like every 30 seconds can be like, oh, you mean I press fucking F and my HP go up? Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, Spearman's
lately, I
actually
found
huge on Azshara.
yeah, I could imagine. And also, what I've sort of found to this tier is that Born to be Wild, like post, it's more that post haste is not usually very useful for like saving your life or doing mechanics. Like post haste feels like the niche solution now, and I've had a lot of success in, safety just running Born to be Wild, the reduction on the turtle's cooldown.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a
I'm
good
running
point.
that on Azshara. It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I could
Because
see.
like
Yeah.
post haste, it's you can use it to clutch some soaks on Ash Vein. Most of I can't think of any other bosses where it really comes in handy.
Yeah.
Of course,
Most
on
of
Ash Vein it
the.
can give you another turtle on the bubbles
But
as well.
the reason to be honest, the reason I really like Born to be Wild on Azshara is so that you don't get the speed boost when you disengage, so that you can fuck off to the edge of the room for beacon or wherever you're going and not have it fucking sprint you
Ah,
back
yeah.
in like a Saiyan Bolt. Yeah, so it's really, really nice.
Actually, I'm pretty sure they changed that. It used to
Oh,
work like
really?
that, but I think they
Yeah.
changed it so that you don't like any speed bonuses you have. Um,
That's a nice change.
don't adjust it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It used to work, I think, the way you're saying, but
Yeah.
I'm not sure when
Yeah,
they
because I
changed it.
was switched out of it like right away and I haven't gone back to it. But
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, okay. So Roger, from a raid leading point of view, I don't know how much raid leading you actually did, but was it difficult to not be in Germany with like Mirrors and Scripe and all them?
So that's a bit of a misconception. I'm not the raid leader. Scribe is. People keep calling me that, but I'm not. Uh,
Raid leader Roger.
why is he lying on the podcast? I don't understand.
yeah, sorry guys. Been raid leading for like 10 years now. Oof. Nah, but I usually try to help out with the calls during the fight, and mostly I'm um, or for example, let's say on Asvane, I would mark the the corals or what are they called,
Mhm.
so that the people that get the marks they know where to go and to destroy. You don't have the fiesta where everyone goes on the same one,
Right.
which by the way is really annoying job to have. Thank God we switched the strat, so I don't have to do that anymore. Um,
Mm.
but so stuff like that, I try to take stuff out of the plate of Scribe so he can focus more on the fight overall. And mainly my main I guess time spent for outside of playing the game was strategizing for Queen Azara specifically, and also Zakul. But Zakul was more like just a random thoughts and how we can approach the fight. And our strat, which we ended up using, like as soon as we saw that the three ads, the from the Fear realm, the summoners, they don't spawn, and we thought it was a bug at the start, but then it happened again, and we're like, oh wait, so maybe it's like just because no one was there. And then as soon as that happened, I started thinking like, how can we use this? And we ended up uh, coming up with a strategy there. I don't think that affected me not being there for Zakul because I it was just random thoughts. But where it actually did affect me was on Azara, where we had to literally just watch the VODs and uh, look at the. We had like a spreadsheet with everyone and the soaks and all the timings and everything, like a massive Google Doc. Uh, so if I was there, I could way easier communicate with Scribe and like just look at his screen and just go through and point at stuff and change things easier. Uh, Instead, especially during the day, what we ended up doing was the raid ended, and then we would sit past the raid time and talk a bit and screen share via Discord
No.
um, and discuss things like that. And especially 2 days before the kill, we literally sat there for 3 or 4 hours after the raid ended, just to because we had seen the last phase, we knew how it's going to play out, and we just had to structure everything, all the timings for the soaks and all that. That could have been done, I would say, in close to half the time that we spent if I was there. So it did affect a bit, but
Not too bad.
not to a huge extent, right?
Yeah.
And of course, I mean, it's nicer when you have the guy next to you and you're like, talking in the breaks, because now he would go off, eat some pizza. I don't know. Scribe really loved pizza every day, and I would just be sitting here watching at my VOD. It's different. Like if you're there with the guy, you just casually
Yeah.
talk. It
Yeah, that's
definitely
probably
helps.
the biggest. Like I imagine, normally where everyone's in their own home or whatever, those in between fights, like the breaks, the after raid, the before raid, all of that sort of thing, like Discord or whatever you're using would just be full of people talking, having that thing. Whereas if 17 of your players or however many it is are off at one site, it just shifts that conversation, and now it's in a medium you can't participate in, so you're
Hmm.
restricted to only those times outside of that. But
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of being restricted, I mean, you would have, if you didn't kill Azshara the day you did, right? You had to go back to the military, what, like the next day or something like that?
Yeah. So we killed it, I think, on Saturday, right?
Sunday.
Oh, was it? Yeah,
I think
Sunday.
it's Sunday,
Sorry.
right?
Yeah, Sunday. So I had to leave on Monday. I mean, latest midnight. Monday midnight, I had to leave. Uh,
he's
so
getting
I
ready to
had,
defect.
but I mean, I also had to like prepare pack my stuff and everything. Like I
Yeah.
couldn't like play until 11 p.m. and then be like, all
Right.
right, guys, I'm off. So it wasn't even a full day. Talking about maximum, I would say 8 hours of raiding for Monday. So it
It's
was.
just start
We,
chatting to Skype, be like, bro, I need you to start preparing a Turkish passport. If we don't get this rollover, I'm
yeah,
crossing the border. I'm defected.
yeah. He's never come to visit me. Actually, I don't know. It's kind of BM.
Yeah,
I've
I know.
been so
He went
close
to
to him, so many
Germany
times.
and I know.
Yeah. Uh,
Yeah. I think Scripe liked Germany from what he was saying. Although
yeah, yeah.
I don't know if everyone else liked Scripe being there because I know he was sitting next to Deep Shades and he was trying to listen to his gangster rap and Scripe was looking over on his screen like seeing who he's whispering and like what he's doing and like
Yeah, yeah.
but
But to finish the question, it was actually a bit of a stressful time for me because I didn't realize how fast the days passed. Honestly, when I realized it, it was yeah on the day that I told you that we sat 3 and 4 hours after the raid to finalize the strat, and I felt so exhausted the next day because that was Friday night. Then Saturday we played from super early. I don't like super early relative to when we went to bed. I slept like 4 or 5 hours, and then we pushed it so far into the night, like
yeah
4 a.m. because we were close to kill. So I felt devastated at the end. S- and then it hit me like, oh, damn, like it's actually closing in. The date is coming, and if we don't kill it, I'll have to leave. And it felt so bad. I tried to imagine a little bit how I would feel leaving with the boss sub 5% wipes, and
yeah
oof,
Yeah,
because
not pretty.
you gotta also understand those days that I took off and played World of Warcraft basically the whole time. I took some days before the pads and bleeding into the pads, like 5 days. Then I had to go back. Then I took 20 days off for the progress, and that was pretty much the biggest chunk of off days that I had from the army. And if I had spent all of them for this, and then in the end I had to bail in the last second,
yeah
oh,
that would have
where I
been
could have been at the beach, just relaxing, going on vacation.
Sitting on
Like now,
Margarita.
just sitting here,
yeah
July, August, sweating in my room all alone. Uh,
yeah
so it was a huge release in the end. Uh,
yeah
Actually, one of my favorite moments, one of my favorite World Fairs in terms of relief and excitement that we got the kill.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, that would have been because I think you and then I think Just Wait also had to go back to work, right? On
Hmm.
like that Monday or Tuesday as well.
Yeah, on Monday I actually had to leave. So it
Yeah.
was pretty much the last day. I mean, we
Yeah.
killed it early on the day. I think 3 hours after we started.
Yeah.
So we had some time left, but
Yeah. And
cutting it close.
yeah, I think Limit and Pieces were in the same boat because I think Red Bull like kicked them out on like Tuesday or something, if I'm not mistaken. And obviously Limit killed it,
Yeah.
but I don't think Pieces hadn't killed it right when they left
No,
the
they killed it
right. So
way
they
later, I think.
yeah.
Yeah.
Pieces
So
got it on the second, which was Friday.
they killed the stream, but they left. Like pieces were still in there playing for quite a bit of time. Like it
Oh,
wasn't
so they
like
didn't kick him out of the
yeah,
like
yeah.
out of the
They weren't
oh,
like,
okay,
oh,
okay.
limit got it, fucking start like
Okay,
unplugging the
okay.
cables, like get the fuck out.
Okay.
Shut down the power from the whole
All
building.
right, get out of
We're
here,
out.
guys.
Nah, and in the background as well, they were still like running around looking after the guys and
Okay.
helping them out with stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
So
it
I
was a long
guess
tier, yeah. It hasn't
yeah.
been
Mhm.
this long for quite a while.
The last time
So
was KJ, I think, right? But
Kill
that was
Jaden
just
probably, yeah.
because Fallen Avatar was bugged for that entire first week, right? And then KJ had
It's
some
also like
bugs
really, yeah.
and they were really
It was
hard,
hard
obviously, but
tuning.
yeah.
Yeah.
Think back, was the first killer that where they one tanked it, Fallen Avatar, and they had like a bunch of druids,
All the
resto druids,
rogues.
like just taking it off. Well, I mean, rogues were for the soaking, but there were a bunch of resto druids that were their affinity to take the brief off tank period
Oh
so
yeah.
that they could one tank it instead of two tank it. Like I think that was how was that first? I can't remember. It doesn't matter anyway.
We
But yeah,
didn't do that 100%.
Yeah.
no.
I remember those some repair bots doing the soaking. That that
No one, we're good boys. We don't do that.
we're still trying. Like we dropped a couple of repair bots on those wards just to double check. You know, you never know.
Yeah, I walked my pet into it. Was like, no, damn.
Yeah. Although
Actually,
the
on that note about pets, not that they're directly affected by it, but people will notice another fun thing about being BM on that fight is because your HP pool drops so much with your stacks. When that expires and it flips back up, your
your
pet's
pet,
health
yeah,
fucking just stays down proportionally. And then
yeah.
any other hit, like there are multiple times in that fight where you're like, oh, goody, my pet's dead. Ah, let me just sit through the world's longest fucking Reds cast to bring him back up.
Yeah.
It's
Let me
Nice.
so
mint
tilting,
pet,
man.
yeah.
And here's the thing, also something that I don't know a lot of people know. So you know when you go into phase 3, we're all grouped up on the console killing the lady something. I don't know the
Yeah,
name.
yeah.
So we kill her off. The boss is there. She casts the arcane detonation, and it's around that timing that we all leave and go to either the right or the left pillar, depending where the laser is. When that happens and she finishes the arcane detonation, she already has queued up the tank ability, which I can't remember the name of. Um, I can check it just to. Oh, I logged out. Whatever. So there's this tank ability, right, that just hits the tank with a massive hit. Now the problem is tanks are really far away, and for some reason they coded so that the boss, if it doesn't find the target, oh, there's a pet. Let's hit that. So it just smacks my pet, drops it to 90%. Then my pet gets hit from the arcane detonation as well, takes that extra little bit of damage, and my pet is dead. Right when I want to pop all my CDs on the second
Oh.
pillar.
Every
Arcane
fucking
Jolt.
time.
And
Yeah.
yeah, so I at the start I thought it was just the arcane detonation, just hitting, not having the damage reduction or something, then the avoidance that your pet normally has, right? But then I checked the logs and I checked the VOD as well, and just because it happens right at the same time, actually the boss hits before the arcane detonation ends, which is really weird. Um, and just to let you guys know, the ability is called Arcane Jolt. There you go.
Oh, jolt, yeah,
Strikes the target for arcane damage and increases their arcane vulnerability. Whatever. So, and I was like, oh man. And then I had to basically, before the ad died, had to pop my pet dash, make it come back towards me, like follow me, and then kill command away from that place to the Myrmidon, just to make sure that it doesn't die.
yeah.
But it
Yeah.
was, I don't know why. why things like this exist. It's just a pain
Spaghetti code.
to be a pet class.
Yeah.
You should also see warlocks cry about their imps and how they
Oh my
dispel because
god.
they had
Yeah.
to dispel. Oh, like their pets
Yeah.
would randomly die. I
Warlocks
just
need to understand that that's a bigger fucking punishment on the rest of us because, like, they have to dispel, sure, but we all have to put up with someone with a fucking warlock brain dispelling us if they don't get it right. So, like, and oh my god, like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, that fight is and then all the LOS and before the nerf, everyone was complaining about having to go in and out like 2 or 3 times for the arcane missiles and everything,
hmm
and that
I didn't
was
have an issue with that. I thought that was a great
BM hunt.
mechanic.
Yeah, all the casters, man, they hated that. Um, yeah. So okay, so obviously Limit was ahead, right? Ahead of y'all for a lot of Azshara. What were your thoughts? I mean, I guess what was going through not only your head, but just like the entire raid, like when
hmm
like Limit was ahead and everyone, all of Twitch chat was saying, Method sucks, y'all suck, Limit's ahead, Limit's gonna win, all that stuff. What was sort of just like going through y'all's head?
I mean, it was obviously planned that we take the whole sympathy of the underdog from the viewers, like just act as if we're behind, but secretly we're just waiting for the right moment. Nah, but we failed behind on Zakul, if you remember.
Yeah,
Multiple reasons to why. Maybe not the greatest setup. Maybe not the greatest play from people. Maybe not the greatest strategy. It's multiple things. Also, we had the whole. I mean, you were there.
yeah.
Friday and Saturday was I don't know. I don't know how the guys played there, but it was wild
Some death
over there.
slamming going on for sure.
Yeah, like we would randomly listen in, like the mics would activate, and we would hear some cheers in the background or some yelling. So yeah, we fell behind a bit there. So we reached the Zara. I think was it like a day after limit, or was it?
Yeah,
I don't remember exactly. So we're already behind. We tried to catch up, and at the start we were like thinking, should we just do what they're doing? But I think after the first day we kind of started doing our own stuff, and it was a bit weird because we would try some things, then we would check, and Limit would try what we tried, then we would try something else that they did previously. So it was really weird, um, back and forth with the strategies. But in the end, I think a lot of misconception was the percent of the boss. So Limit decided to just go into phase 3 and just nuke the boss and see what happens. And they brought it to 50%, and then the mobs went in rage, and then um, they wiped. So they had their best pool 50%. Meanwhile, we were trying to do phase 3 normally, so we didn't focus the boss at all. So the boss, we only reached it to like 60%. But you need to get all of phase 3 down before you continue back on the boss.
right.
So for like 3 days or something, we were stuck at best try 60% and limit best try 50%. And everyone was like, "Oh man, Method is
Where's
so
Method?
far behind.
Yeah,
Jesus, like what are they
yeah,
doing?
yeah,
Still the same best. Are you not progressing at all? Like what
yeah.
happened?"
Yeah,
Uh,
no, Sko was
just
Sko was saying that he was like, man, maybe we should just zerg the boss and just get to like
yeah,
48% just so everyone can stop
exactly.
saying stuff.
Yeah. We
um,
said that. We said
it's
that.
it's it's one of those fights. Like, I didn't fully appreciate. Like, even though I'd heard it and I'd heard people say I'm at both sides of the fence, I didn't appreciate it till I was there. It's definitely one of those fights where, like, you can have a full day of raiding on it, and you can learn so much, and you progress so far, and like you actually have come so fucking far on that fight from where you were at the start of the night, and you have not shifted that boss 1% from where you were on your best, but you're
That's
actually
true.
massively ahead, especially when it comes down to your raid getting finally like having that epiphany about what are the right number of stacks, where at what time, all of that sort
Mhm.
of thing. Like, that is far more important to getting that fight down than percentage of boss during phase 2, phase 3.
Right.
Yeah, and like it really is that when you're doing it. And so it
Yep.
makes it such a debate around where they are. Now, that being said, that last day where Limit pushed hard into the night, and then you guys came in, and like just smacked way lower. Like they just fucking I've not seen inting that hard in a long time. Like they clearly all arrived at the venue that morning and said, all right, boys, let's fucking biff this down the toilet. Let's just fucking play like absolute shit. Like, no offense to the guys, but I'm sure they'll say like, and I know that they say the reason they lost is they played bad. And that's absolutely true. And more specifically, it's because they played bad on that day. That was absolutely theirs to take on that day. And they had a whole day where they just did nothing in that last phase. It was constantly get to that last phase with all your people up and biff it down the toilet. Needless
Yeah.
deaths that they couldn't recover from. And if they'd played like they did on the kill, I think they were fine there. Now, they put a lot more pressure on themselves in that phase by choosing the strat they did, the 3 healers rather than the 2 and not having lust, and maybe
Yeah.
that would have been different, but they entered there and they threw that away. Without that, if they'd progressed at the same speed of progression they'd had on average through it without having this giant dip on that day, I think they actually walk away with it purely by getting there earlier. We won't know. The thing is, you can basically pick any tier and Limit will have key days where they have done that. Now, how much your guild stamina, your raid stamina for playing perfectly when you get to the pointy end of execution, how you respond to that pressure is an important part of how good a guild is at getting a world first. So it's not at all saying, oh, Method got lucky or anything like that. It's saying when crunch time came, when it was that most important, that's where Method do what they always do. And yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I didn't have enough time to check what the limit we're doing most of the time. Usually, I would check if someone said like, "Oh, look, they just had like a good try," or I would be like, "Wait, how do they handle this?" So then I would check a little bit their stream. But most of the times, I would just normally check in the morning when I woke up and in the night when I went to bed. I would just check a little bit, maybe skip through and look at specific tries and specific phases. So I don't really know how their progressing went in the end, towards the end, because I was really focused on what we're doing, especially because we had a different strat. But I think the benefit that we had was that we realized that we could two heal it, and we didn't diverge from that path. I mean, we did try 3 healing as well, but I think Limit gave up on the 2 healing idea.
Yeah.
I think they tried it very little, and then they gave up on it. Whereas we got the 3rd healer in just to like kind of progress and get more phase 3s in by bloodlusting phase 2. But then we always had in our heads that wait, we can go to heal, and this is something we should keep in mind. So then we practiced phase 3, especially when the nerfs came in, and our philosophy was also let's focus on phase 2 and phase 3 and see how we can improve those phases. Because even if we get to phase 4, like I think Limit got to phase 4 before us. I can remember just barely, you know. Uh, like if Limit goes there first, I mean, we can just see what happens in that phase by looking at their stream. So there's not really a huge benefit. Just make it to phase 4 and then insta wipe. No, I mean, you have to get there with your ward's high HP
Yeah.
or like specific amount. And we were checking and Limit, yeah, they were killing more ads in phase 3. They were technically ahead, but their wards were pretty depleted. Meanwhile, we were working on our weak aura, to assign when people soak. We were trying to math it out and see how many people we need to soak here and there, and trying to sort out all our CDs, our healing CDs, and fix beacons and the gateways. Like there's a
Yeah.
lot of min maxing you can do in phase 3 and phase 2, not so much, but mainly
Yeah.
phase 3. Uh, and we worked on that a lot when we were behind for 3 days. Uh, and as soon as, especially, I don't remember exactly when the nerfs kicked in, we were kind of ready for that. And I already called it that they would nerf how much the boss drains because it was a bit extreme. And once that happened, we just kind of said, okay, this is the time where we go back to 2 healing, and then we just execute the phase. We have, instead of 7 stacks, everyone gets 5 stacks, and we can survive this, and boom, we just get
Yeah.
into the last phase with bloodlust, which is huge. So it was, I think we were a bit lucky. I was afraid mainly that the last phase would be giga easy, which if you bloodlust, it is quite easy. I also say to the people like, and in the last phase, all you do is just nuke the boss. Like literally, you don't really do much.
Yeah.
So it is the easiest to play that phase, but it's the setup, how you get there. Do you have
Right.
bloodlust?
Right.
Do you have the wards high HP so you can soak less in the last phase? Uh, it was a little counterintuitive. It kind of reminded me of the Avatar boss, where yeah, last phase, okay, it's hard, let's say, but you can make it easier by playing phase one better. So it was
Right.
kind of the same philosophy here.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, so again, we were a bit behind technically, but I think we just put a lot of our efforts in things that uh, were very useful towards the end. If you saw our last phase is we were getting like 30% try, then 25% try, then 15% try, then 5% try. The last phase was really easy for us because of that um practice and uh,
Right.
Yeah, it was
how can I
clear
say
once you
patience.
guys hit that and you immediately just started chunking in really deep. It was like,
Yeah.
okay, this is because I think
Mhm.
the day before I I was interviewed by the Red Bull guys, and I'd just come out of watching Noga getting ready for that raid, and he was the angriest I've ever seen him. Like, and it was anger at other players on personal responsibility and raid prep, and I was like, man, Mythos freaking morale seems really low. However, it sounds like always kind of hit that point and just that anger motivates you guys and you all do the personal responsibility. But I was like, man, like limiter upbeat, they're going into it. They're all like, really up here with their raid morale. Method are a bit behind percentage wise and stuff's
Yeah.
there, but if they just are angry the whole time, maybe it won't. And like, nah, limit
Yeah.
the whole
Well,
day away. And you guys just like you came in like ready to fuck the whole time, just like
yeah.
bam, bam,
Yeah.
smashing it, knocking it off. And I was like, oh, this bitch is dropping
Yeah.
this time.
Yeah.
Also, one last thing because I don't want to drag it on too much, but it also helped a lot morale wise knowing that hey, having bloodlust for the last phase means that okay, we struggle and maybe they get there more consistently than we do, but boy, if we get there, we can really catch up to their best try and like chunk this boss down.
Yeah.
It's just such a boost. And if you check the actual kill that we did, we had like another I think 15 seconds before the console would explode. We could have done another 5% of the boss
Yeah.
probably. So and it was super clean, right? And not to say anything about their strat, but I think they played. I didn't check their whole kill, but I think they played like super good in their kill, and it was still like
It was
so close. Like
barely.
the console
Yeah.
exploded. It
I think they had
was
like a
it
prop
was
pally
really
bubble
tight.
or something, right? Or not a ret pally bubble or something. I don't
Right.
know. They had like two people alive at the end, and yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's also played to our morale because we were thinking, okay, I personally was thinking, yeah, they can kill it this way, but it's so much tougher. And like, I don't even know if they can kill it without Bloodlust. Like, it's going to be really, really tight. The fight gets so much harder the longer you get in there. And you need to soak more for the wards because you need another 40% health on one ward because when you click the third time the console, that's another ward taking 40% of its health out. So I was like, good luck. I mean, we're doing the easy strat here.
Yeah.
Like it's really
Yeah.
easy. So
Um.
that's why we didn't really feel like we were behind, and that definitely motivated us. We kept saying on our on our voice comms that, come on guys, just get to the last phase, and then we can easily kill this. They will struggle for way longer, which in the end it wasn't much longer. So congrats to them on that. But
Yeah.
at that
Yeah.
point, that's what we thought.
I mean, and that's definitely one of the things as well. Like for the guilds that are progging on it and they're in their own little mini races with another guild or whatever, there's so many things beyond percentages that you can look at between you look at, okay, yeah, they're a few percent ahead, but what are our ward healths like? What is are we hitting the timings on those ads? Blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
Um, it's interesting. No, I like that it's not that clear. I like that there's all these other kind of elements you have to factor in.
Yeah.
I just wish that that wasn't wrapped around a core mechanic of fucking endless line of sighting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. Okay,
Yes.
so last question, and then we can sort of head into the Q&A. What are your thoughts on just how the Race to World First has developed into this, massive like multi-stream type thing, like as opposed to how it used to be where everyone kept everything super under wraps and no one talked
Hmm.
about anything or shared anything? Do you like being able to sort of copy strats or like talk to other people about stuff like that, or
Um, I would say I like it and I don't at the same time. So I like a lot of the things that come with streaming, but I also kind of miss the part where it was just 25 nerds just super secretive and oh, like there's no distractions across anywhere, and everyone is just guessing where we are at, and then suddenly you see, oh, they killed it, and it's I wouldn't mind that to happen again, but at the same time, I do feel like this is where how it should be. Like we should be streaming it. It feels so much more rewarding when you have everyone watch your progress and you get the kill, rather than oh they killed it, and then you see a bunch of posts and yeah, people start whispering you in game. But I don't know. It's hard to say. It's hard to say.
Me,
So,
it's a bit like marrying a prostitute. Like technically, the sex is better, but all the discovery and mystery has kind of been sucked out. I think this
that's
is
the
good,
greatest
but I want
analogy.
to.
That's
Ah,
that's an awesome analogy.
No, but for real, like especially I haven't been to any of these events yet, for whatever reasons, like the army, and at the start it was very few spots, so I skipped it. Um, but that's also something that you cannot have if you're not streaming it, right? Like you're not gonna just hire a bunch of people to cast and have everyone go there. So I'm still waiting. Hopefully, I will be there the next time. Uh, it's just a whole next level of experience, and I
Yeah.
think uh, it made
I
sense
think
at least for me as well. If you ask me, I think we should have started doing it a bit earlier, but there were other reasons back then. Some
I
other
think the
issues in the
whole.
guild, but but
Yeah,
in the
my
end,
understanding
that's how
is
it should be, right?
Yeah.
you guys aren't in any rush to flick comms on for your streaming, are you? Like you've got a few gamer words to fly around,
Uh,
few things that mean that comms could not just open up. It is the Euro way.
yeah, I
We
mean,
definitely, if we streamed comms, we would be entirely banned from Twitch, WoW, and there'd be a knock on the fucking door within minutes. Like it's not a thing for us. Like in Australia, cunt is a verb. It's a noun. It's punctuation.
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of people ask why don't you stream comms? I mean, it's that little bit of secrecy that it's still something that we have on
Gotta
our own,
maintain the
right?
Retaining,
magic.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
yeah,
mystery, the
and you
intrigue.
feel like you're not giving everything out. You're keeping some things to yourself. You have a little bit more freedom, and you're not afraid of what to say and what to not say. And it definitely, I think, creates a more relaxed environment. Um,
Yeah, and
on the other
it's
hand,
not.
yeah, yeah,
It's not like people being nervous of talking in front of anyone else or anything like that. Like when I'm in an environment where comms are streamed, I fucking mic down everything is typed. So I'm
hmm
just I opt out of it. But it's not like I'm fucking shy or anything like that. It's just it's I don't know it's like it opens all your actions up to even more fucking judgment, and you're just like, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not really in on that. Like I much prefer where comms, from a participating point of view, I much prefer where comms aren't streamed and you're just free to talk about what you want to need to, and like, if you have a dumb idea or a dumb question, you're not afraid to ask it. You just jump in, and that's
right,
fine. But from a viewing point of view, obviously, comms on is much more engaging. But
Right.
it's kind of
yeah,
the that's one where we definitely can't have that cake and eat it too. And I would rather the option where it results in us playing better or achieving a better result.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you look at, Red Bull versus, Max's stream, right? Like, obviously, Max's stream consistently got more viewers because he had comms on. But then obviously there were a lot of clips and stuff that came of that were a little controversial or taken out of context or whatever, and so you obviously run the risk of stuff like that happening since you're streaming 15 hours a day for 2 weeks straight.
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
very hard to
And part of that's
monitor
the
yourself for.
part of that is the nature as well of like Twitch chat and the gaming community in general. Like we're always there waiting for someone to yeet a fucking cat
Yeah.
across the room so we can.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, in other games as well, you don't really have voice comms stream apart from like specific times when they're like, oh, let's listen into I don't
That's
know,
that.
CLG, whatever. I
Yeah.
don't know what teams even
Yeah,
play anymore.
sometimes they like they let you listen in on the comms of like at least Call of Duty, like you hear it and if the
Yeah,
comms are really
exactly.
intense. That would be cool, maybe
Yeah,
for
we
future method
discussed
stream
this.
on really good attempts and stuff.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, like
Like
highlights or
5% turn on the comms and just hear all the
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, we discussed this that maybe we can say something like, okay, for like the next 1 or 2 pools, we're gonna have the voice comms streamed, so be a little bit extra careful, but you can still be yourself, right? If you know it's just for 5, 10, 15 minutes, just to
Yeah,
give a little bit of a glimpse to the people.
Yeah.
But I still think that that would be as far as we would go. I don't think people would be willing to just give the whole voice comes out and yeah.
What do you use for like a voice communicating method? Is it like TeamSpeak or is it Discord or what
Discord.
do you? Okay,
Yeah.
it's Discord. Yeah. You could use maybe the overlay for the stream as well that shows when certain people are speaking and stuff. Because most people don't
Yeah.
know methods' voices.
Oh yeah, that's a good point actually.
Yeah.
That's I've never thought about that. That people
Yeah.
don't know who's talking,
Yeah. I mean, I
who's speaking.
know, I know your voice, Frag's voice, Gingy's voice, Scribe's voice. But then
you know
after that, it gets
the
kind of, yeah,
Mhm.
you
not
know the
sure.
big ones, like the one who just sounds like your dad is disappointed in you all the time. That's Scripe, and the one that's saying, "I'm fucking dickhead." That's Scar.
The Scottish accent, yeah.
So many times in phase one, we would just meme around, right? Like we just talk whatever. If, yeah, because there's nothing to do in that phase, and the rule was as soon as the second Hulk died, that's when we all need to shut up and let Scribe call like DPS this ad or this ad so that we don't wipe to a stupid reason. Uh, but and every time we would just try to get in as many memes as possible before that happened, and Scribe would be like, "How can you talk all the time, man? Like, just can't it one try where you don't have something to say is impossible. What's going on?" So
It was so funny
yeah.
watching Scripes like raid leading and just like stuff, and then it was okay. The funniest moment. So I think I was casting, or no, I was in the other room, and that moment on Orgoza where he blinked off and then ran into the thing, or no, took the lock portal back, or he took the lock portal back and died, and
Yeah.
he was like freaking out, and then he looked like he peeked over his monitor to see it, like almost like, is anyone else watching, like did anyone see that? And all of us were just like staring at him and laughing, and he was like, fuck, it was just like
Oh man, yeah, I saw that clip actually. It was top meme actually. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, the number of
Oh.
times you see someone take a slower walk into a long beam, you're like,
Mm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the in Queen Azara. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
But
think that's the worst bit about phase one is you get so fucking mind numbed to it that then you do have the occasional dumb death, and you're like, really, this stupid fucking phase. Oh,
yeah.
God.
It was a funny moment actually when Gingy got backhand, and I see him and I'm like, yeah, he's gonna need a grip, and and he says, like grip me, and at the same time I'm like, Kuri, grip Gingy, but I don't remember who it was. It could have been either of the healing priest or Viklund, one of those three. He grips Gingy first, but they are on the other side of the beam. So you just gripped him through the freaking beam, just insta kill him. And I'm like,
Uh,
oh god. Oh.
God, yeah, I have nightmares in my guild on Mechatork. We were doing so I was doing an alt raid on my shaman, right? And shamans like obviously don't have any other way of when they get knocked up. I was like, hey, someone grip me, and we had like 4 or 5 priests in, right, or priests,
Hmm.
and it literally just like make like a star, and just like grip me all across, and just like
Just
grip me through Mecha. Yeah, it was so bad.
you summon the Illuminati right there. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, guys. So, running low on time, so we're gonna open it up to a Q&A. So, anyone in Twitch chat that has questions for us or Roger or
Yeah, hit
just
us up.
about anything in general. Um, but yeah.
Don't be shy. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I guess yeah, while waiting for that, we didn't really talk too much about the Hunter. I mean, this is a Hunter podcast, right?
yeah.
So what did you guys think of the Hunter performance overall? I guess you can say, because I can tell you when I was about to start progress, everyone was like, "Hunter sucks, man, worst class.
Yeah.
We're not gonna get any of them in." And
I
I'm like, okay,
actually
well,
I
guess I'm
thought it
benched.
was I think it's pretty good. I think we're close to towards the top for best single target, right? Just straight up single target. I don't think we're the top. We're like 3 or 4, right? But obviously like BM we can move and stuff like that. I thought it was pretty good
Yeah.
performance. Obviously aside from Queen's Core and Orgoza, right? I
Yeah,
mean
it
we sort of
it
sucked on those
takes
two, but
yeah, it takes a step down on I guess well kind of Agotzo depending on your strat, but especially Queen's Court and I guess also to an extent Cool, but you can really pump boss damage on Cool, so
Yeah, like ultimately, it was always just going to come down to how we on Azshara. Like you
yeah.
would int to get them gear if you needed to on those other
Yeah,
bosses
and it seems we're pretty good
to
there.
pan out for that. I feel we're incredibly good there, but to be honest, I also feel like you legitimately for your comp for that fight can throw a bunch of darts at a board and it's a viable comp. But like that fight, more or less, other than a few key things like hey, 2 warlocks, V dispels, blah blah blah, really is driven by as long as that player can pump damage, stay alive, you're fine. There's no particular niches or anything like that. Just fucking have shit that lines up for these kind of timers, which BM plays out really, really well for. Like whether you're in those early stages and you're banging hulks and you've got an answer to both of them, or the
yeah.
way your shit lines up for blasting the big ad thing and then that lining up into the next lot of ads. Like we just align really well to all of it.
But that's kind
Um,
of sorry.
I was just going to say, but so many classes kind of fit into that because they are structured around like 2 and 3 minute timers and that
Yeah.
sort of
Yeah.
thing.
But that's
Hmm.
what you want from, like a successful raid, I guess, is that, you can bring a variety of different comps and still succeed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I going into Mythic, I was actually almost a little bit worried that we might get nerfed because like I was fucking everyone in our raid. Like I
Yeah.
didn't care what class you were just holding your head down into the pillow and just doing it. Uh, like and then yeah, then I decided heroic would be a nice place to stop getting gear. So that's like leveled us out of it. And we kind of compete. But
Yeah.
when you get into like once fire mages started getting gear and you get them into scenarios like Orgazol where they're just like, I legit am going to double you fuck right off.
Yeah.
Um, it's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, Roger, and when I was talking to everyone about like the splits and everything the first week, I was like, "Oh, who got good gear?" And they're like, "Yeah, everyone got what we wanted except Roger didn't get his bow. He's really disappointed." And then you
Yeah.
got and you got your bow from Mythic the second week, and your face
The
was just
second week.
like you were so happy. You were like, "Yes, I can do
Oh,
damage now."
We
yeah.
still haven't had one drop. We're like 8 million mythic kills because we're still forever deep and somehow haven't killed the last boss yet. And yeah, and we still haven't had like me and the other one have not had that fucking weapon drop. I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
Not happy,
It
Jan.
it is. It was a massive difference actually, right? Because I mean, okay, Hunter is good on, it's decent. That let's say on Queen Azara, but if you don't have the gear to do the what you're expected to do, then I mean they'll just take someone else because you're
Yeah.
not really doing anything niche as a hunter
Yeah.
that someone else can't
Yeah,
do.
exactly.
Uh, Looking back now on it, I would also say that Druid is not the best, like Moonkin is not the best, mainly because of the last phase,
Yeah.
because of they have 3 minute CDs. I don't know, maybe they have to play Vision of Perfection I don't know. They tried a bunch of stuff, but Moonkin didn't perform as good as we expected. It was decent, but
I think there's
yeah.
just enough movement, like because not many classes get as fucked by movement as Boomies.
Hmm.
Like if it's super predictable and they can line it up so they go into the movement period with a bunch of resource, sure. But for a lot of other classes, like the concept is your nukes are a cast and your resource builder is a instant or something you can do on the fly, a starter step or whatever. So at
Mm.
least when they are forced into a period of movement, they're building up resource and then they get out of that and they're like, well, I've got full fucking resource, so I can make up for this low damage period I've just had. But Boom is the other way around. Their nuke is an instant and their resource generator is casts. So they get to this like period where they're having to do a bunch of movement and it's like, oh, guess the moonfire. Like it's really painful for them.
Yeah, well,
And
it's
then you finally get out of that period and you still have no resource to do anything. So then you're like, oh, now I cast these fucking nothing generators and
yeah,
then I'll get to cast them. Like
yeah,
so that's why as well, like you see lots of people asking, like, why do Boomy sim so much? But they only sometimes actually perform
yeah,
to that. Like when they do, when they can plant feet, like they're there to fuck. They will
Oh yeah.
get
yeah,
work done. But they really feel the pain when they can't.
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm just saying like it was legit the perfect. I planned out my cooldowns and comparing them to the druids. th- People were crying about classes with 3 minute CDs. They cried a lot because they had to use it phase one. Sorry, save it in phase one, use it in phase two at the start so that we do the DPS check, then not use it in phase three at all, and then, or I don't know if they did use it early on, or if they saved it for Bloodlust. Like you couldn't have it both ways. Either you use it in phase three and then you use it without anything in phase four, or you don't use it phase three and then you use it with the Bloodlust. So it was
yeah,
really annoying for them. Whereas I, with my Asp to the Wild being a 2 minute CD, I was pretty much pressing it on CD. It was much easier for classes with
yeah,
2 minute CDs compared to 3 minute CDs uh, to play well there. And
Yeah.
especially as the last phase with our strat only took 2.5 minutes maximum.
yeah.
Um,
I think
so
Mirez
yeah.
said he used it in phase three, and his incarn came up with 10 seconds left in phase four. Like he
Hmm.
popped it, and then he got like 2-star surges out, and then y'all killed the boss.
Right.
Yeah,
Because you wanted it to last those extra 15 seconds you
yeah,
had.
Right, yeah. Like, oh
Yeah.
man, when I
yeah,
looked at the boss HP, I'm like, oh, I better pop everything right now. Like this boss is dying. I don't want to kill the boss and have cooldowns still up.
yeah.
Uh, yeah.
All right, so got some questions.
Hmm.
What Azure maybe you can answer this. What's the best passive? So the minor essence at 65. Once we, or I guess the couple options that we have.
As far as I've seen, for both MM and BM, and most likely also survivals, it's just conflict and strife rank 3, which is the versatility buff that stacks, and it's basically 100% uptime, provided you have a consistent target. So yeah, pretty boring minor, but gives you damage, gives you a bit of damage reduction as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So do
Yeah,
those
that third
arena.
option is all close as well. With I think even Crucible of Flame is right, like they're all within a very small number of
Yeah.
each other.
Yeah.
And then quite often World Veins will be slightly ahead if you could keep it up. Like for me, it's only I don't know 100 DPS difference between
Yeah.
World Veins in that third slot versus something
Yeah.
else.
Worldvane actually, sorry to interrupt you, but I don't know. We did some testing with it. A lot of people used it, and I don't know. Like we didn't get good results with it. Some
It's
I
that
people
think
were
third, it's
complaining.
that fourth one dropping off where you have to wait for it to time out. Like it's not like it goes, hey, you've got 8 and the maximum is 4. It goes, you've got 4. That's all you're getting. And when that fourth one drops off, another one needs to come in for you to get that. So you watch the fourth one go tick 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 tick, and it just eats away at your uptime.
Yeah.
Mm, yeah, because someone was saying like, dude, I'm standing in these like 8 things, and I still don't have like 4 stacks. Like, they
Yeah, they'll be sitting at 3 because the one that was giving them the fourth dropped off, and it's
mm,
not doing a check on, hey, you're now in range of these other ones. It's waiting for the next one to come.
right. So I don't know. Like in the end, we just dropped it. We're like, guys, go
yeah.
away from this
Yeah,
trade.
that was
No one
like
uses it.
I think the only
F it.
fight it was good on was like Orgoza, right? Like because you're literally
not
just
even
all
that.
sitting there.
No,
No?
Not
there's
even
actually so much there's a lot more movement on Orgazoa than is necessary. Like I remember memeing fucking poor Draco, and just like I did a zoom in off his raid of all the people with will veins and everyone else switched off, and I said like, watch this. Watch these people's movement. It was like they were fucking allergic to each other. They were just like standing nowhere near each other and running around like they had ants in their pants the whole time. But that's actually really normal when you watch guilds that are probably on Orgazoa. They're freaking out about stuff. They're moving different directions when the drops come down, and like there's just so many things that add up, and they all eat away at your uptime for it. Now, realistically, for most people, like even Crucible of Flame in that spot is like 150 DPS behind versus perfect uptime of Wellvane. So you're going to have those options instead, and they're just going to wind up being better, I think, for your actual. And you just not have play around it, right? Like you're not having to be like, oh, I've got to go stack in with the melee or anything like that. You just fucking do what works and switch your brain off and forget about it.
Yeah. So next question for Prox. What was it like raiding for the first time in a relatively hardcore guild from your semi-hardcore guild previously? One wasn't that. I mean, y'all were still like semi.
Honestly, just the only difference is when you're playing in a shitter guild, you still have a bunch of people who are at that level, but you have a bunch of people who really aren't. And there's nothing you can do about that. So there's no point like yelling at them and being like, why are you such a retard? Instead, you adjust your strats around it, you work stuff out to bring that weakest link up. Playing at a higher level, amazingly, we still have a bit of a mismatch, but it's a lower proportion. And the high end is higher. Like there are some people in this guild who legitimately, I think, are some of the best players of their class in the world. But the what we still don't have, because honestly it's still actually reasonably casual compared to any of the hardcore guilds, is like we don't have people who are like able to just jump to any class and be like, oh, I do this or I do that, and it doesn't matter. I can follow the bottom. We don't really have much of that. And people have big boy pants on a bit more around like when stuff is fucking up. You don't have to have kit gloves. You can address it and then it gets fixed. You normally don't have to talk to people 2, 3, 4, 5 times about something. We're getting a little bit of that at the moment, but that's kind of the nature of Azshara and the way you tilted at each other a bit. But I think it'll be interesting just as we get through to the end of this fight and have a look. But yeah.
All right, so next question, and so this is a classic question. We were gonna talk a little bit about classic, but we sort of ran over with all the other stuff. But I guess for all three of you, are y'all playing classic, and are you gonna be a hunter boy? Who wants to go first?
So I'm probably playing the classic. I haven't really done research in classic. Legit, I know whatever I remember from 15 years ago. That is my knowledge of classic. And I don't know. I mean, I kind of want to. I kind of want to play Hunter just because I play Hunter all the time. But at the same time, I remember the pain of playing a Hunter back in vanilla. So I'm like,
yeah, it
do
wasn't.
I
I
want to
mean,
go through that
I mean, Hunter in
again?
vanilla was just like a questing, right? Like, I mean, you had your like one token hunter in raid, right, for like the pet buff or the attack power or whatever, right?
No,
But then,
you're actually really good right up until like next, where you're just inting your group. But before that, you're reasonable DPS. But it's one of those. I mean, firstly, I think applying the same research and knowledge and prep and treating it the same as we treat retail would be a huge trap. The reality is for vanilla, if you take the rose-colored glasses off and you just treat it for what it is, it's in-game from a PV perspective is extremely easy. There is not the depth. There is not any of that challenge. What this is for people is the experience. Immerse yourself in the experience when it comes out. Take your time with it. Fucking read the quest text and all that bullshit and just have fun with it, because it is more about the journey, because the end is fucking shit. It's and whereas if you've got people who are like, oh, this is my leveling route and we'll speed through this and we're going to dungeon. I'm like, oh my god, you're just racing towards the shit part. Enjoy what's there.
what do you mean, Prox?
I will probably.
You're not gonna go world
So
first Ragnaros?
I will probably play it just to hang out with the honestly guys more, because I really really enjoy playing with some of those guys. But in saying that, I'm away in San Francisco on a work conference that whole week that it comes out. So I'm a week behind the curve.
Oh,
Yeah.
That kind of makes it a bit moot for me. We'll see. My
Yeah,
focus is always going to be retail instead, to be honest.
but
Yeah.
what class are you gonna play? Is the question.
Oh, I would definitely play Hunter. I'm just autistically attached to it, right? Like,
Okay.
Yeah. Roger, you gonna be a hunter?
Yeah, I still don't know. I'm between hunter or a melee. Like I
Melee.
guess
Rogue?
warrior, rogue, one of those two.
survival hunter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
wait, that
Survival
is still
hunter,
rank.
yeah. Yeah, raptor strike, raptor strike.
Wing clip, wing clip.
Yeah.
Pop deterrence to proc my parries and mongoose bites. Yeah, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay, so next question for Roger. How important was it for you to run Focusing Iris Major with the strategy to help nuke the wave of ads rushing to the console in Azshara? So I guess in phase 2, right?
yeah. So here's the thing. We reached the point in the fight where we just had random wipe reasons all the time. Okay. It wasn't like a specific point we were stuck. We just had wipes in phase 1, wipes in phase 2, wipes in phase 3. And I was like, okay, listen, guys, we need to approach this in this way. We find what is the issue in phase 1, we fix that issue, we never wipe to it again. The issue in phase 1 specifically was the Hulks were not dying. So we sat there and I'm like, bro, you need to go on the ad. I don't care if you're a melee and you get stuck on the wrong side of the laser and you don't have a boss to hit for 20 seconds after the Hulk dies, you're gonna go there. Okay?
yeah, you
So
DPS off that phase anyway, so
Yeah.
you
yeah,
just focus on that.
exactly. So we fixed that issue. We never had a Hulk go through ever again. Boom, done. In phase 2, we had a lot of wipes because the ads either reached or they were not grouped up properly, or we wasted so much DPS to kill them, and then we didn't make the DPS on the boss because everyone's still focusing on the small ads. So we're like, okay, let's fix this. We don't have enough DPS, and I'm like, well, I can switch to the Iris because from all the classes, like I don't really know every class, but I'm pretty sure that Hunter doesn't lose like as much DPS compared to other classes by switching to it. Plus, um, in the end, I did end up making a little bit of a good use out of it in the other phases. Okay, phase 1 doesn't really matter, but in phase 3, for example, as soon as we enter the phase, and correct me if I'm wrong here, maybe I am, but I had like a really high stack coral from my trinket. And as soon as we enter that phase, I pop those stacks into my focusing iris and hit the Myrmidon plus the lady. And I'm pretty sure that works, right? Like the crit from the
Yeah.
coral works
Yeah.
on the iris.
Yeah,
So
there's
then
no
it's
wipe
just,
effect of it. It's just straight crit.
yeah. So I hit 2 targets with it with massive amount of crit. Then towards the end of phase 3, there's this little tiny timing, which is exactly when my iris gets ready, when the boss casts the arcane detonation, so the tanks have to LOS, and then the boss like walks a bit towards us and goes on top of the last um
The
lady,
last ad,
whatever,
yeah.
like the last mistress, whatever, the last of one of them, then Myrmidon and the boss, and that's the perfect timing. You have like a window of 2-3 seconds where you can hit all 3. So again, that's pretty good value there.
Our
Uh,
boss doesn't step in on it. I don't know what our tanks are doing, but I like only get the 2 each time we hit that check you're talking about. I'm just like, oh, come on. Like, give me
yeah,
that third target.
Yeah.
I mean, I just saw that it kept happening, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'll look out for it and try to get that in. So I don't think um, okay, yeah, it's war single targets, but I don't think it really affected us, and it made it way safer to get rid of those odds with no more going through or wasting too much damage, right? So it like now I switched off of it because obviously we have more DPS. We don't need to. Um, like we can be a little bit looser in phase 2 and still make the DPS check. So I
Yeah.
switched off of it. But at that time, I think it was the correct decision to just get rid of that mistake, like that problem that caused us to wipe, and just consistently move forward. And that was the approach that we took. And
Yeah.
you don't really want to change that after getting used to it and have to rearrange who AOE is and all that.
Yeah.
Um, there you go.
Yeah,
mean,
and this Schnitzel said this was before you got CLF rank 3. You did have CLF rank 3 the second week, right?
right. So
Because
I
you got
got it
rank
the
4.
second week
Yeah.
exactly. I didn't have it the first week, which is even more of a reason why I played it to begin with. Uh, but yeah, I mean, I did tell them that I could switch off of it, right? Like we did discuss it, but Scribe said like, no, 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 let's not change anything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely, I'm running the same setup. I feel like it's the right play, unless we start consistently wiping in the end to not enough damage and it's fucking close. I'm like, well,
Mhm.
I could maybe eke out like another K here or whatever. But we would have to have an answer to those things where, like, at the moment, I'm the second highest damaging on that group of ads that come in, and we just get them in time. Like, and it works really well, and the timing's right. But now if I switch off that, we have to solve that problem in a way that is consistent because you
Mhm.
cannot keep getting to that point and chucking the attempt
Yeah.
down the toilet. It has to be consistent and it has to be not a trade. Like we would have to solve that without someone else losing something. Otherwise, like don't bother to make a change if it's robbing from Peter to pay Paul.
Yeah.
Um,
BM
Is the
can,
consistency? Yeah. Go on.
yeah, it can pump those ads without Iris. Like,
Mhm.
I don't think you gain that much with Iris compared to
and
just the
I do
double,
like
triple
three and
stomp,
a half million
basically.
damage to them. I don't know if you're pumping out that much without
You
Iris.
can pump out probably like, because they live for a while, at least 2 mil. If you have two stomp charges, barb shot charges ready, and you
Yeah,
just
I
have
think they're
a beast
probably
cleave up
living
for
a
the
bit
whole thing.
too long if you because it's not either or with those. You're going to get the two stomps and the Iris and beast cleave up that whole time if you
Yeah,
I
time
okay,
mean,
things
it's
right
not.
and prep
Yeah,
it.
okay. They
it
live a
is a.
bit longer on heroic, because in heroic you don't get both, of
Mhm.
course.
Yeah, no,
Well,
no, no,
yeah.
of course. It's
Yeah.
very, very different too. Like you can't look at how it is in Heroic. It's yeah,
It,
like
it
you
is. It is a
blink.
bit deceiving. Oh, sorry. Go on.
Oh, it's just because you blink and you miss it in Heroic. In fact, the best
Oh, yeah.
thing you can do in Heroic is
Yeah.
have a ally shaman run into the middle and blast them out right as people are about to kill them, just to fuck everyone off. Like,
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
This
It
only
is a bit
happens in
deceiving.
Prox's
Some.
guild.
It is. It is a bit deceiving sometimes that um like okay with the Iris you kind of get the full damage in before they die, whereas let's say Beast Cleave, it might do really good damage if they stay alive, but oh well, most of them died at the initial burst, so even though you are pumping the AoE, it doesn't show on the meters. So the numbers can be really weird. That's why you see sometimes I was doing half the damage of the red. Sometimes I was doing 1/3. Sometimes I was,
Yeah.
it really depends on how well the ads get stacked up, and
Yeah.
it's a bit random.
say that the
Yeah.
one option I am tossing up that none of you horde cucks have available to you
Oh,
is
Light Forge Drain Eye. All right.
Uh-oh.
yeah, like at the moment of stage, we're handling that consistent and it's okay. So I'm like, I'll take the extra 150 DPS in the last phase and some more verse and blah blah blah. It's nice, but man, like being able to just consistently get that on all 12 of those ads would be a nice choice.
Yeah, imagine playing
Hmm.
Alliance.
Oh, I mean, let me just check WoW progress. Oof, it's so red. Jesus. Oh my God.
All right, guys. I think that about wraps it up. We are pretty far over time for what we usually want to try and do, but I think that's it. So thank you guys for coming out. That this was episode 3 of the True Shot Lodge podcast. Thank you, Roger, for coming and
Yeah,
hanging out with
and
us.
thank you for having me. And I'm sorry I do talk a lot, so
No, no,
sorry
no, you're
for
It was
a quick
great.
good.
extension.
It was good,
David,
yeah.
no more of these shitty fucking Greeks, Jesus.
Um, but yeah, so thank you for coming out, and until next time, guys.
Have a
Boy.
good one. Bye.